The day is finally here. Today is the end of the Donald Trump era. It is the start of the presidency of Joe Biden, who will be or has already been sworn in by the time you listen to today's show, by the time you watch this clip. It has felt like so long. And at the same time, it feels like just yesterday that I was watching those numbers come in from Florida at 7:25 p.m. Eastern time in November of 2016 and thinking this isn't looking quite so good for Hillary Clinton. But we've talked about all that. And today is the day where Trump out, Biden in, and finally the beginning of getting beyond the global historic nightmare that has been the Trump administration. But Donald Trump did not leave quietly. Yes, he was quiet on Twitter because he was suspended. Yes, we didn't see any live press conference or speech from Donald Trump in the lead up to his final days. But Trump was never going to leave totally quietly. And he delivered yesterday a deranged and meandering screed of a speech. We will look only at a few clips today. We are all so glad to be getting beyond this. But it's important to know what were the last utterances to slip from Trump's mouth. The theme yesterday in this pre-recorded speech, the theme was Trump taking credit for really anything that he could, even just general delusions of grandeur like this one.
With the support and prayers of the American people, we achieved more than anyone thought possible. Nobody thought we could even come close.
Of course, whatever achievements you think did take place during this Trump administration historically will be outweighed dramatically by the massive, overwhelming failures of the administration on everything, in particular on COVID, on global relations, on climate, and I could go on. And as I've said before, had Trump properly handled the virus response, it would be Trump being sworn in for 4 more years today, not Joe Biden. We saw it happen in other countries, and that was Trump's undoing. He couldn't control that he had to deal with the virus. Nobody could. But proper handling of the virus did lead to re-elections for leaders that handled it correctly. Trump wildly and incorrectly claiming that now the world respects us and warns that we should avoid losing the respect he believes or claims to have secured for the United States. Completely delusional. And we know that for a fact. Take a look.
The world respects us again. Please don't lose that respect.
So this has been widely studied. We don't have to speculate. We don't have to guess. We don't need conjecture. Respect for the United States around the world, absolutely in the toilet. You know, those toilets Trump says he, would have to flush 10 or 15 times if Joe Biden's environmental regulations get in. Well, that's where the global reputation is for the United States, in the toilet. And the challenge will actually be the opposite of what Donald Trump says. It will be, can Joe Biden restore respect for the United States with Trump gone? What countries are willing to say, OK, let's reestablish mutual trust and respect after Trump is gone? I think many countries will be willing to do that because it matters that we reestablish those alliances. It matters for them as much as it matters for us. But no, Trump, with opposite day speech, the respect was lost under Trump. Trump also, interestingly, saying he deliberately chose the tough battles rather than taking the easy path. He sort of framed during this pre-recorded speech that was released yesterday. He said, part of what made his presidency tough was he chose to do the tough things, sort of an allusion in some sense to John F. Kennedy, but failing miserably to make any kind of analogy.
As president, my top priority, my constant concern has always been the best interests of American workers and American families. I did not seek the easiest course. By far, it was actually the most. I took on the tough battles, the hardest fights, the most difficult choices, because that's what you elected me to do. Your needs were my first and last unyielding focus. This, I hope, will be our greatest legacy.
This one is interesting because in a way it's sort of a positive moment. He's not attacking anyone necessarily, not directly anyway, but it's also very disconnected from reality. He actually chose easy things and messed them up. And he also messed up things that every president has to deal with. And he also messed up things that every world leader was presented with and dealt with better than Trump, coronavirus, of course, being at the top of that list. Trump did say, and I think this is the closest I've ever heard Trump be to conciliatory in any way. Trump said he is praying for the success of the next administration. But there's a little weird tweak he adds in there that I want to talk about.
This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word.
Trump has to add something snarky or weird, and it's Trump mentioning luck. And this is a reference to Trump seeing himself as having had bad luck that he had to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. But more importantly, Trump didn't even mention Joe Biden in this 20-minute speech. Trump mentions the next administration, as he did in these vague terms about 8 to 10 days ago, but he never says Joe Biden. And he didn't say it today in another final screed that we will get to. And it is another one of these signals about the petulant child that is Donald Trump. Now, it is true that without Trump's mishandling of the pandemic, he would have been reelected. I talked about that moments ago. But Trump handling the pandemic well is not a question of luck. It's just a question of who was determined to do it and who was capable of doing it, as we saw many world leaders do. The bad luck was actually for us. The bad luck was for the world that we were so unlucky that it was Trump in power when the global 100-year pandemic hit. Just about anyone else, including just, a high school science teacher, anybody who would have just said, oh, this is a situation where we need experts, let's defer to them from day one, would have worked out better than having Trump in power. That's bad luck for us. It wasn't Trump's bad luck. Trump wrapping up the end of this pre-recorded speech by taking a page out of Kimberly Guilfoyle's playbook. Remember, from the Republican National Convention, the best is yet to come. You remember that. Here's Trump using that phrase.
I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
So another lame speech to cap off a lame, failed presidency that we are thrilled to see finally over. And notice that in this entire speech, Trump didn't mention Joe Biden, as I said earlier. He completely glossed over 400,000 coronavirus deaths, although he mentioned that this morning. He glosses over the pro-Trump riots that he inspired at the Capitol 2 weeks ago and the militarized state of the city as Trump leaves thanks to him. And it is yet another pathetic joke. Now, one little extra goodbye. On his way out, Trump revoked the executive order that banned administration officials from becoming lobbyists within 5 years of leaving government. Drain the swamp, right, my friends? And that's something that really should be codified into law rather than left up to administrations. We will be covering the inauguration, but first, Trump's final weird sort of rally-like goodbye happened this morning. Let's talk about that next. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. One of the things I make a priority on the show is not to perpetuate stigma for things that don't deserve it. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about many things where we should all just be respectful adults, period, and we would be better off. And Blue Chew can increase performance and give you that extra confidence you may be looking for. BlueChew.com, blue like the color blue, is the first chewable with the same FDA-approved ingredient as in Viagra and Cialis. It can be taken day or night, even on a full stomach, since it's chewable. Blue Chew is prescribed online by licensed doctors. You don't have to go to a doctor's office. You don't have to wait in line at a pharmacy. It ships right to your door in a discreet package. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, it's cheaper than a pharmacy. And best of all, no more awkwardness. We've got a special deal for our viewers and listeners. Go to BlueChew.com. Get your first shipment free when you use our promo code Pakman. That's Pakman. Pay just $5 shipping. That's BLUE Chew.com. Promo code Pakman to try it totally free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the David Pakman Show.